This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Welcome to The Best Worst, a celebration of the best and the worst of the television we love. Hi, we're Meg Bashwinner.
And Joseph Fink.
And we love TV.
Yeah, so we created the show to explore what we all love about popular TV shows by watching both the IMDb viewer best rated and worst rated episodes of a quintessential series. I'm getting so good at saying that quickly. Guys, try it at home. It's hard. We're doing this because, I don't know, the golden age of television is a nebulous thing. Some people say it was the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s era of prestige TV. Everyone agrees it's not now. And so we wanted to figure out what was going on there by watching the best and worst of some classic TV.
Yeah, and we have rules here. We're not just willy-nilly. We're not, it's not an anarchist television recap TV show.
No.
Wow. Okay. Our rules are that each show must have at least 100 episodes, or with HBO rules, have at least 50 episodes, and be a specific kind of show. And we exclude premieres or finales because those have inflated ratings, and we're looking to watch the television show at its absolute best, not at its most important or cliffhangery.
And those are the rules. Let's get to today's show. Meg, what is today's show?
Today's show is The Twilight Zone. It's getting to be spooky season, guys. So we're doing a spooky show.
Yeah, I'm not keeping track of when this episode is coming out, but it might be October, maybe.
Listen, I walked by our neighbor's house yesterday. It was September the 3rd when I walked by our neighbor's house, and they are decorated for Halloween, and that is why we live here. So,
I went for a run in late August. I want to say maybe August 25th. And somebody had a full front yard Halloween display up already. It was August 25th.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think our personal rule is October 1st.
I think in this era of despair and things falling apart, it's just whatever you need, whatever to get you through the day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have our personal rules.
Yeah.
But everybody, you can, if you want to be Halloween all year round, by all means, do it. So we're doing The Twilight Zone. It just happens to coincide with spooky season. And The Twilight Zone, which ran for 5 seasons from 1959 to 1964 with 156 episodes. Now, The Twilight Zone has been rebooted and refilmed and rebooked and replayed, and people are have taken this IP and scattershot it across all forms of media forever and always.
Yeah, there's been multiple movies. There was a 1985 television reboot. There was a 2003 television reboot. And then Jordan Peele did a 2019 television reboot. None of these reboots worked. And I think there's some reasons why. Maybe we can talk about the reboots and why they didn't work in the middle list, just to leave something for that. Because The Twilight Zone is a very specific show. Speaking of which, what is your background with The Twilight Zone?
Obviously, I didn't watch it when it was on because it was in the place that is non-existence before I am here now. And so I did not watch it when it was on, but I didn't love it as a kid because it was scary. And my friends watched it. Like, there was the New Year's Day Twilight Zone marathon, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day Twilight Zone marathon.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So that was my sort of in on it. I never really enjoyed watching it because it was black and white and not I Love Lucy. So I was out on it. But
I think I watched it because Bewitched was black and white, right?
Okay, yes.
I watched some Bewitched. I'm trying
Dick
to think.
Van Dyke I watched, which was also, yes. Okay. It's not a comedy. I'm not trying to be scared in black and white.
I definitely watched The Twilight Zone, not a ton. I wouldn't say like I watched every episode. I watched the famous ones. I would say like the Time Enough at Last and William Shatner seeing a goblin on the airplane wing. I've seen those. And I would say as a kid, I was very impressed by them. Like, my mom is a huge golden age of science fiction nerd. Like, a lot of 50s science fiction movies, Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov. And I feel like Twilight Zone fits into that tradition. It is science fiction that is more about the idea than the story, which I think is a very golden age of science fiction thing, where it's about having a big idea and you just stick some characters in there to illustrate the idea. Yeah, I would say I was positive on the Twilight Zone. It was not a favorite of mine, but if you had asked me, I would have been like, great show.
I think I was a kid. I understand the cultural reference of it. Like if someone were to say, hey, this is just like the Twilight Zone, I understand what you're saying here. Like if people are referencing it, I get it. But yeah, I did not watch it. I enjoyed going back and watching it. I had never, as an adult who can watch stuff that is a little bit scary now, I was into it. Just, I liked checking out the craft of it. But yeah, that was my experience of it before now.
Before now, where we get to the worst episode of The Twilight Zone, possibly, honestly, one of the worst episodes of television I've ever seen.
We can talk a little bit about how this show got made.
Okay, let's get there first.
So Rod Serling wrote a screenplay called The Time Element, and he hoped to produce it as a pilot of a weekly anthology series. CBS bought the teleplay in 1958 of that. And it was featured on the Westinghouse Desilu Hour, which later became the Desilu Comedy Hour. Anyway, they gave Desilu and Westinghouse had...
Which is Lucy and Ricky of...
Yes, of Lucy and Ricky. They gave them they had an hour.
I guess Desi Arnaz.
Desi Arnaz. What did I say?
I said Lucy and Ricky because the characters' names are what I immediately think of.
Yes. So because they had this popular show, they had Desilu Playhouse, which was a bi-monthly Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz show. But they also would be dramas, comedies, and musicals planned for the show. Westinghouse Electric, which is back when like presenting sponsors kind of existed in a big way. So Westinghouse Electric paid $12 million to sponsor the show.
Yeah, everything was, there was like the Schlitz Theater Hour. There was, the version I read about in the great tome of knowledge that is Wikipedia about where Rod Serling got his career from. He was a kind of freelance script writer for radio and TV, and then he wrote an episode of the Kraft Television Theater was the name of the show. He wrote an episode called Patterns that became a huge hit, and people loved that episode, and that kind of rocketed him to like the upper tier of like, this is a guy in demand to write TV.
So he wrote The Time Element for the Westinghouse Desilu Playhouse, and Burt Granite, who was a producer and TV writer, was working at Desilu at that time and got it made, and people loved it. People loved it so much that Rod Serling got a whole TV show just for him to be on CBS. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, is Rod Serling, I think he might be, is he the first celebrity TV writer? Because these days, like, there's people like, David Simon,
Vince
David
Gilligan,
Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like these people that are like famous TV writers. And I feel like Rod Serling was the very first one where he was famous as a writer.
Sure, let's say that.
Because the whole premise of The Twilight Zone was just Rod Serling is going to write some shit for you.
In the grand tradition of this show, whenever we say someone or something was the first one, we're always wrong. So
if anybody has an example of a TV writer who was not primarily, I know he appeared to introduce things, but he was not primarily a performer, who was also a celebrity, please let me know.
Yes. Well, I mean, The Twilight Zone is we're sort of TV is becoming what it is, right? We have I Love Lucy, and we have all of these. We're moving from radio into TV, so it's starting.
And from theater, because a lot of these things are called, like, again, the what is it? The Kraft Television Theater, the Schlitz Playhouse. Like, it was very much building on a night at the theater, but in your home.
Yes, the Westinghouse Desilu Playhouse, which is where The Time Element was. First produced. So it is coming from this. We're making it theatricalized television. It's this primordial ooze from which TV is emerging.
It's this basic premise we have for the show, I think, that we haven't talked about in a bit, but that the history of television is moving from theater to movies. That it's been this slow move from modeling yourself on theater, getting more and more cinematic until now where they're modeled on movies.
With a brief stopover in radio.
Yeah, radio was there too. I think radio, though, was also very modeled on theater.
Yes, absolutely. But as far as I think we see structures and things becoming episodic in a way from radio that then moves into television the way that theater is not.
Yeah.
So it is that we sort of filter through the radio, and that is where we get seasons and episodes and half-hour stories and that sort of thing.
I mean, the whole idea of like a sponsored hour is very radio.
Yes. So, and here we are at the Twilight Zone. So
with one of the worst episodes of television I've ever seen. Season 4, episode 18, The Bard. Ludicrously, one of the episodes they remade for the 1985 reboot. I don't know why of all of the episodes you'd be like, let's remake this one. What's The Bard about, Meg?
The Bard is about a hacky, unsuccessful TV writer who's at his agent's office and is like, I got an idea. Give me a job. I got an idea. And he's just like this huge, massive trope of a TV bumbling fool. And his agent's like, yeah, I don't know about that. So his agent's like, there's this thing about black magic that we need a writer for, but it's not you. But he's like, can it be me? So he goes to the bookstore. Great. It's a good first impulse as a writer when you don't know about something is to go to a bookstore. So I can't fault him for that.
I mean, I'd say go to a library because a librarian could help you, but sure, this is second best.
He goes to this used bookstore where this lady is very into baseball.
Yeah, there's this funny stuff where apparently this baseball talk is real. It's about the Mets, right? And I think at the time the Mets were only a couple years old. So like the Mets were kind of big news because they were a new team.
Yeah. So he goes to the bookstore. The lady who works at the bookstore is unhelpful. She seems to just basically be talking about the baseball, which is great. I think that's really a really fun character choice to give a character is just like her entire personality is that she's into baseball. And so they're at the bookstore and he's like, I need a book about this. And she's like, we don't have that. But then the book falls off the shelf and it's like black magic.
It like flies off the shelf magically.
And so he takes the book and he takes it home, does like the stuff for it.
He like
does like a little bit of a spell.
He like still lives with his mom, and there's like
I don't think he lives with his mom. I think he lives in like a boarding house situation. I think he like rents a room in a house.
Okay, because there's like a weird little
girl.
sidekick little girl who does absolutely nothing in the plot. She's just there occasionally to be.
She's his antagonist. She's
just like a funny sidekick occasionally.
She's us being like, you ain't shit, buddy. And it's true. So he does the little spell and summons the ghost of William Shakespeare.
No, I think he like summons just Shakespeare, like in bodily form. Shakespeare like knows what's going on. He's aware he's been summoned.
Yeah.
He's not like surprised or confused. He's like, great, you've summoned me to write and I want to write.
Now, do you think if there is an afterlife, you would get summoned as a writer and would you go?
Yeah, I'd love to. I love to work. I'm really excited to be considered for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing in the afterlife? Not writing? I like writing.
Maybe. I don't know.
Do you think there's like good novels written in the afterlife? Is like some of the best novels just ones we haven't read because they're floating around in heaven?
Well, yeah.
Just like some thoughts.
You just have a lot more experience. And also, there's a lot of writers out there who don't have time to write. And if they're dead, presumably they have more time.
Also, you'll probably get some fun collaborations of people who just didn't live at the same moment in history, but now they're like getting together in a writer's room. Is there like good prestige TV up there that's like, say, written by Shakespeare, which is what Rod Serling supposes here, is what if Shakespeare wrote TV?
Which is interesting because we just had this big conversation of theater and radio moving to television. And then ultimately, yeah, we are coming from a place of Shakespeare is a part of how we are here today. So when we look at prestige TV, some of it is on the shoulders of William Shakespeare, presumably.
This episode makes a funny kind of joke because Shakespeare is, sort of synonymous with like the best writer who ever lived. Now, I personally, and I believe you as well, not that into Shakespeare's writing personally, just not my thing. But he is like this paradigm of like, here's what a writer is. But as this episode shows, that doesn't mean he'd write good TV because the stuff he writes isn't good TV. And so there's a lot of the episode is like the network and actors trying to figure out what to do with a Shakespeare script in the form of a television episode because it just doesn't work as a television episode.
Yes. So eventually the writer and Shakespeare collab and the writer gets a script, gets it to his agent. His agent gets the network in. Everyone's super excited about it. It's a whole the weird table of yes men.
So a lot of this episode is just Rod Serling venting about TV writers and how much he hates them. This scene, though, is him venting about network executives and how much he hates them. And like specifically at the time, sponsors, because, if you have the Kraft Theater Hour, Kraft then gets to be like, here's some notes on this script because it's their show. And so you have that here where there's like the soup company and they just want to know, what does this have to do with soup? And this is based on a real thing, which is, I believe it was, he wrote into a script someone asking for a lighter and he was told he had to change it because they were being sponsored by like a match company.
And also, yeah, the network notes, and then the network notes that he was struggling with that Sterling was struggling with at this point is that Twilight Zone had always been a half hour.
Yeah.
And then the network was like, how about an hour? And he's like, it's not what I fucking do. But they're like, yeah, it is. And so he did. And as a result, we have The Bard, which is 51 fucking minutes.
And the very last hour one they did, it was a failure, the shift. And this was the very last hour one produced. And you can see why. The pacing is so baggy. It is struggling to fill that hour.
Well, it's not what he does, right? These are morality plays. These are parables. There's only so much time we can fill with that. We're trying to make a simple point here. We have an idea and we're going to run with it for 25 minutes. And that is what we got.
And he even makes this joke because in the very beginning, the TV writer is like, that half an hour show, let's make it an hour. And the agent is like, that's a stupid idea. So he like has a little meta joke about how much he hates this.
Okay. And then so we get to the point where they're going to make the TV episode. And then Burt Reynolds is there. And then I fell asleep.
Yeah, so Meg fell asleep while watching this and chose not to rewatch it. So I take that up with her.
I did look into it, but I think that I decided, as I was not wanting to be woken up, I fell asleep for like 5 minutes of a 50-minute episode. So I still would like
credit. It was more like 10.
I would still like credit for the assignment. I decided that my personal rules for the show are that if I fall asleep during the episode, then that is what has happened.
Okay. I will say you fell asleep during kind of the one good bit for me of this episode, which was Burt Reynolds doing a just like vicious parody of Marlon Brando. Like they are not even trying to disguise it. He is playing Marlon because they're like hot off of playing in A Streetcar Named Desire. Like it is just Marlon Brando and he is playing him as just the dumbest, most full of himself dude. There's some very funny parts where he, for instance, gets really mad at Shakespeare for not knowing who Tennessee Williams is. In the one good line of dialogue in this entire terrible episode, he goes to the director and he's like, what's my tertiary motivation? An incredible line. So yeah, the one good bit here is Burt Reynolds just absolutely tearing Marlon Brando a new asshole. Otherwise, D-, but that bit is funny.
And then, so Shakespeare gets into it with Burt Reynolds and Shakespeare punches him.
Yeah, Shakespeare punches Marlon Brando.
And so then he's no longer going to be working with Shakespeare, this writer. Instead, is to work on a piece of history. So he just summons a bunch of dead men. Yeah,
the big punchline, you got to have the Twilight Zone episode ending. Every Twilight Zone has like the Twilight Zone ending. And in this one, the punchline is that he like summons a bunch of historical figures, including...
Premiering with Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, the very first one
we see. First guy. Lee, Grant, Lincoln, Washington, Pocahontas, got to have a girl in there. Daniel Boone, Benjamin Franklin.
And there's like
Teddy
a racist
Roosevelt.
Little thing where he does like a how to Pocahontas.
Yeah. I love how they were like, we got to have at least one girl. Pocahontas. Yeah, that'll do it.
She's a woman of color. At least they did that.
Definitely wasn't played by one.
No. I will say this makes it one of 2 Twilight Zone episodes we watch for the show with Abraham Lincoln in it. Abraham Lincoln appears twice in the 3 episodes we watch for the show. Can't say if that was a pattern for the Twilight Zone or if we just got really lucky, but I also don't know if it was the same guy. The guy who played Abraham Lincoln in The Middleist definitely had played Abraham Lincoln before I looked into this. He's just like a guy who looks like Abraham Lincoln, so it was kind of his job.
Yeah, and if only he was still alive, he could be an O'Mary.
O'Mary, very funny. So, yeah, this episode, it's as you said, Twilight Zone is a show about ideas. Every episode, there's like, here's the big idea, and let's explore that through this episode. And here, the big idea is just everyone who works on TV is annoying.
Yeah, it's
the
just
writers are annoying, the network executives are annoying, the actors are annoying.
It's just sort of grievance.
Yeah. It's just Rod Serling being like, here's me ranting about every annoying person I've ever worked with.
And you know what? Because fine. It's due. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. It also has like an overbearing Looney Tunes ass soundtrack. There's like anytime there's a joke, the horns go. It's constantly like every single joke. And it's very clear that like Rod Serling was like, guys, let's do a funny one. This will be a funny one.
Yeah.
And the Twilight Zone, as you said at the beginning, not a funny show. This is primarily a show about parables about horror. That's kind of what it did. And so let's do a funny one. Didn't work great in the Twilight Zone format. But there's still some good visual style. Like, it's more cinematic, like comparing it to I Love Lucy, for instance, which was not only a few years before this. This is early 60s. I Love Lucy, mid to late 50s. So we're only talking a few years later, but it's already, the filming of this is so much more cinematic than anything in I Love Lucy. So there's already some visual interest. It's not as visually interesting as The Best, which we'll get to. It has a lot of really interesting shots. This one is fine, but it is doing some stuff that is better than just pointing a camera at a stage.
I agree for sure. Yes.
That said, there's stuff like Shakespeare just has the world's most visible bald cap. Like, they are not even trying. Like, they did not even attempt to like blend that with makeup. He just has like the bald cap line on.
We're still in the world of theater. We're still doing theater makeup on camera and expecting it to look good.
Or just not caring. Just like, it's fine. Like, we all understand he's wearing a bald cap.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. But there's a reason people sit in hair and makeup for film for hours and hours at a time. And we sit in hair and makeup for theater for the half hour before the show, and we do it ourselves. So like,
yeah, there's this idea of like theater magic, which is built around everything's visible. You know how it works. And the magic of it is that it still works somehow, that like you have to collaborate in it.
Yeah, you have to suspend your disbelief. Whereas for television, we're asked to suspend our disbelief in a different way.
Yeah. Well, we used to be, as the move from theater to move to film in TV happened, we have been asked to do it less. But like, I feel like throughout, a lot of times sets were very basic. It was very much like the sketched out version of an office or a house. And we were just asked to understand, like, look, this is a house. You understand that. We're not gonna fill every single bookshelf and every single wall with like perfect detail, but you get it. It's a house. Whereas now we're no longer asked to do that, because every set is like, you can like, everything's designed for you to pause and zoom in and be like, oh, look, that photo means this. At no point are we asked to be like, it's fine, it's a house. It looks like a house. It's probably filmed at a house. We're going on location now. Whereas, before they were just kind of sketching things out on a soundstage. I didn't have any more. I think we went through all of my notes for this.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. It's, was this the worst episode we've seen for this show? I think so. I think.
Of the three we watched, for sure, yeah.
No, I mean, for the best worst. I can't think of a worst episode.
Lucy in Scotland.
I would rather watch Lucy. Lucy in Scotland was 20 minutes. This was 51. And I would say they were similar levels of quality, so I will take 51 minutes. I will take 20 minutes of bad over 51.
I'm trying to think, is this the worst thing we watched?
I mean, Lucy in Scotland's close. The X-Files episode with the cats was close, but even that still had some visually interesting stuff happening, and Mulder and Scully are always fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think it is the worst one we will ever watch, though.
No. But yeah, it was tough, like especially for a show this legendary.
And the show this good. It's a bad episode of a good show. It feels almost like not even a Twilight Zone episode, because
that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's trying to be a wacky comedy, which Twilight Zone is not.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's get to the people who made this terrible piece of TV. It is written by our man Rod Serling. Rod Serling, we've talked about a bit. He's from Syracuse. He joined the military right out of high school, became a paratrooper during World War II. He really, I think he wanted to be sent to Europe, but instead, is Rod Serling Jewish? Am I remembering this correctly? I believe he is.
Quick,
yes, he is Jewish.
Check for Jewish excellence.
Yeah, so Rod Serling was Jewish. He joined the military to fight Germany, like a lot of Jews wanted to. And instead, he was sent to the Philippines. And he ended up in a platoon that was nicknamed the Death Squad, because they were sent to such dangerous missions. And so right out of high school, Rod Serling watched a lot of his friends die. His platoon had a 50% casualty rate during World War II. There was one point where a friend of his, they were just on break, and a friend was standing up and telling a funny story, and then some supplies were airdropped, and the crate landed on the guy's head and killed him, just right in front of Rod Serling. So there's something about his worldview that you can really see shaped by this experience of just being put through the meat grinder of war at like 19 years old and having then completely undiagnosed and untreated PTSD for the rest of his life because they were not properly treating people. The amount of trauma this guy went through and then was not treated at all. And so definitely, I think the Twilight Zone, a lot of the ideas come out of that experience of the brutality of governments, the brutality of war. Just right out of high school, he went through that. It's funny because he's such a, like, on TV, he's such a slick, calm presence. And so the idea that he went through hell is one that's kind of hard to match to that, I think.
Yeah.
We can talk more about him later as he wrote some of the other ones we're going to talk about.
Now, do you want to get the black magic book, do the spell, and try to summon him?
Oh, man. I don't think he was happy. I don't think, like, he suffered from really bad PTSD. I don't know if he was I don't know if he'd want to be back.
So you're saying not on the list of people that it would be cool to, like, would be, the right thing to do.
Listen, I'm going to summon a Jewish writer from the eastern half of the United States. I'm going to summon Leonard Cohen, and you know it. It was directed by David Butler. David Butler got his start in silent movies in 1927, a movie called High School Hero. He directed movies for 30 years, and then in the mid-50s made the jump to television. He did Leave It to Beaver, The Schlitz Playhouse, and The Twilight Zone, and then he finished soon after The Twilight Zone. This was one of the last things he did. He finished with a movie called Come On, Let's Live a Little. That's online plot summary is just standard boy-girl malt shop doings with a free speech on-campus subplot dropped in. And that's David Butler. So he's one of these guys who is not native to television. Maybe part of the reason why it's shot in a little more of an interesting way, because he spent 30 years directing movies. Shall we get to our intermission?
How is that theme song?
How is that theme song, Meg? I guess I'll go first.
You go first.
9 out of 10. Like, this is one of the iconic theme songs. An interesting one in that, let's talk about how it's made. The first season did not use the iconic theme song we all know with the guitar. Yes, that started with the second season. The first season used an orchestral theme by Bernard Herrmann, who was most famous for composing for a number of Hitchcock movies. Very famous composer. He did some of the soundtracks or some of the scores for the first season episodes. This was his version of the theme.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man.
So you can hear it was a little generic. It was just some kind of... It was not doing a lot. So they wanted to replace that. They asked a number of composers, including Bernard Herrmann, to submit new ones, and they didn't like any of them. And then we get to a man named Marius Constant. Marius Constant was a French avant-garde composer, and he had been hired a few years earlier to create a bunch of short musical stings to go into the CBS stock music library. So this was just work for hire. He just made some stuff. But they were all, because he was an avant-garde composer, they were also kind of weird and specific that they never got used. They were just sitting there. And so one of the producers for The Twilight Zone edited 2 of them together. So the famous Twilight Zone theme song is 2 different stings. One is that arpeggio, the ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then the bit after, which has like, it has like conga drums, it has like horns that like was another sting. And so it's just 2 of them stuck together. Because it was work for hire, Marius Constant had no rights to that music, and he never got paid a single cent for its use in the Twilight Zone.
And use everywhere else. If anyone is evoking something that is gone a little weird, you just play that Twilight Zone theme, and it works as evoking that for most of us with this. People, even without the reference of the Twilight Zone, will get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible piece of music. Again, that's why I'm putting it, I would say 9 out of 10. I would say with 10 out of 10 being Cheers, I think this is a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Where are you at with it?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it has incredible staying power. Taking 2 points off because I'm happy that it was made, and from the impulse of someone who has had to make stuff from clips and bits of stuff, like, good job, but I feel badly for that French avant-garde that he does not get to reap what he sow.
Oh, yeah. I don't approve of the method of composition, although, as you said, there is something kind of ingenious about just looking through the CBS stock library, finding these things, and being like, what if we just stuck 2 of these together?
Yeah.
Incredible idea. But yeah, he should have gotten paid at least like an extra lump
It's not
sum.
like CBS doesn't have the money. Like, I'm scrapping stuff together when I'm, making downtown avant-garde theater that has literally no budget. And you're scraping stuff together when you're CB fucking S. And sponsored by Schlitz.
Let's get to the best episode. The best episode, season 2, episode 6, Eye of the Beholder, which was originally called The Eye of the Beholder, and then they got sued by somebody who had recently used that title for an educational movie, and so they just changed it to Eye of the Beholder.
Eye of the Beholder. And yes, iconic episode of television. I had never seen it before. As soon as it started and I saw the first couple scenes of it, I was like, I know how this goes. But
yeah, let's get to... So the plot summary is a woman is in a hospital. Her face is covered in bandages. It is because she is hideously disfigured, and they are trying to make her look normal. And it is in this... It gradually is revealed that we're in this dystopian society where everyone has to look beautiful, where beauty is really, really valued, and that if you are not beautiful, if you are disfigured like this woman, you get 11 chances for them to try to treat that and make you look normal. And if they can't, then you have to go live in a colony for hideous people like you. Finally, they remove her bandages, and it is revealed
she's fucking hot.
She's hot, and everyone in this world is really weird and lumpy and has like they're like monsters, because its beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And then a really hot dude shows up who's like an emissary from this colony where the people who aren't normal because they're hot live. And he takes her away to go live on Hot People Island. As you said, the thing about that is, in order to make that twist work, we do, for the first like 18 to 19 minutes of a 22-minute episode, we don't see anyone's face. Everything is shot in a way that you just never clearly see anyone's face, which is a little noticeable.
I think it's cool how it's done. The shots are really cool. The camera work is great. It's acting is
super visually interesting episode.
Acting is incredible. The shot compositions are gorgeous. Like, it is, there's such a great amount of tension and staging, and it's really cool. It is really cool. But yeah, instantly I was like, they're not showing the other people's faces because the other people's faces are fucked up. But still, if I didn't see it coming, oh boy, would I have been like, oh wow, they're really saying something here.
And now is where I tell the story about my mom. My mom has told me the story about this episode so many times. It's one of those stories she tells. She was probably like 5 or 6, maybe even younger, when this episode happened. And she was watching it with her sisters, and because she's little, she found it very scary. And so when they start removing the woman's bandages, she covered her eyes. And then they reveal and the woman is hot. And so her sisters were like, no, look, she's beautiful. She opened her eyes right as the camera cut to the hideous everyone else, and she freaked out. And so like this particular episode really imprinted on my mom, I think, in the way that media can when you're young, especially scary media. This was my mom's The Ring, you know? This episode gets to the issue we had with the Twilight Zone, which is, it is a show about ideas. It is not a show really about characters or plot. Every episode comes in with the big idea. And the problem is, even at 20 minutes, or 25 rather than 50, he's really struggling to fill that time. Because it's sort of a 6-minute parable that is stretched to 25 minutes. And a lot of the time spent before the reveal, you can kind of feel him trying to figure out what to do here.
Yes. The like, hey, let's add a dystopian leader that we have to watch on a screen.
Yeah. And there's just like a lot of like them discussing the same thing, kind of reiterating that she's hideous and that she must be made to look normal kind of over and over.
Yeah. The stakes get a little ratcheted up because at first it's just like, we've had this procedure, and then it's like, this is the last time you can have the procedure. And then if the procedure doesn't work, you're going to exile. So like the stakes do ramp up as we get towards the end of the episode. So there is that. But yeah, again, it is about one thing. But then again, we have to remember this is when people who are watching this episode of television when it first comes out have not seen years and years of TV, have not seen years and years of like theater and films that are using these sort of devices. Like there is not this incredibly widespread media accessibility where literally babies have screens put in their hands, right? Like this is the reason that we know that to see these tropes coming and to see these parables coming is because the stories have been told for years and years and years. At this point, they haven't been told in, you know, the monoculture for years and years and years. So
I could just feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Vicarious?
I don't know what context you're using it in, so I can't tell you.
Like I felt for him an amount of writing panic, because I have been in this situation where I have an idea for a thing that needs to be 2,500 words, and I get 100 words in and realize that my idea is 300 words long, that I thought it was going to be enough, but that it is just not enough idea. It's a real like panicky feeling, and I could just feel it through the screen, this sense of like, oh no, this idea is only 300 words. I have to stretch.
What do you regularly write that's 2,500 words?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I write a thing that's not that different it's obviously different in like scope and cultural impact from the Twilight Zone, but in terms of like Welcome to Night Vale is a similar thing in that it's just like an excuse for Jeffrey and I and now Bree to play around with an idea we have. And yeah, it is a thing where sometimes you have an idea that you think is going to work great, and then you realize it works great, but not long enough. I don't know. I might be projecting that. I could just feel it. I could feel if I had to write this episode that I would start panicking about not having enough material to fill 25 minutes.
But I think it works. I think it really does work. The performances are really strong. I love what they do with the hands. There's lots of cool shots of hands, because that's like the only parts of bodies that we're really like seeing that have individual to them. So there's lots of cool shots of hands. I think the actress who plays the lady in the bandage, well, that's played by two people.
Yeah, so a lot of the first part is the woman kind of doing monologues about how much despair she's in and how much she wants to look normal. All of that was done by like a voice actor doing voiceover. And then for some reason, I think because maybe they just were casting for hotness and didn't want to have to worry about acting, they had a different lady be the hot lady who's in the bandages. However, it turns out that hot lady also could imitate the other lady's voice pretty well. And so they had originally planned to dub over her voice with the voice actor, but they just let her do an imitation of the voice actor. So about 3/4 of the way through this episode, the actor who's playing both the body and face and voice just changes.
Which is a choice.
I agree. This episode is it is so visually interesting because they are given, this goes back to the idea that I think art that has limitations can be some of the most interesting art. And in this case, the big limitation is, how do you do an entire TV episode in which A, you can't show anyone's face, but B, you're doing your best not to draw attention to that because it's the twist. And so there's a lot of like trying to make people think they're seeing faces, because they'll show people's faces, but they'll be far away or they'll be kind of in the shadows. There's only one point that made me laugh because it looked like the Austin Powers gag where he's naked and things are in front of him. There's like a point where someone walks in a room and the camera just carefully moves so a vase is in front of his face, and that is the one moment where I'm like, this is just the Austin Powers gag.
Unrelated. They're just smoking in that hospital.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm a nurse on my smoke break at the nurse's station.
I mean, this is the era in which you had your doctor recommended brand of cigarettes. 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this brand. Yeah.
And now they all are the vaccine word of the CDC, those 9 out of 10 doctors.
You have to laugh because your country is ending.
Yeah, because that's with your last breath. Why not be laughing?
The scary faces, going back to the bald cap on Shakespeare, the scary faces are just Halloween masks, and like the seams are entirely visible. Like it just looks like some people wearing Halloween masks. They made no attempt to blend it in.
Yeah, they're like a little pig facey.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a couple masks stitched together. Sorry.
You're falling asleep just even talking about the Twilight Zone.
I'm sorry. I'm not well.
My final note for this is that we didn't have this with the Bard for some reason, but for both the best and the middleist, really fantastic next on format that I think we should get back to, which is Rod Serling just sitting at a desk being like, hey guys, here's what the next episode is about. I'm really excited about it. Here's who wrote it. They're a great writer. So come back next week. And that's what the episode's going to be about. And I also, we didn't talk about the fact that Rod Serling introduces every single episode. You get kind of a little bit of the world, and then we pan over and Rod Serling is standing there being like, here's a story I wrote and here's what it's about. I really think we should get back to this. I think TV episodes should start at a certain point. We should cut to the writer of the episode being like, hey, everyone, welcome to my episode. Here's what it's about. Here's what I was trying to do with it. Hope you enjoy. And then I think next on should again be the writer being like, hey, everyone, next week's about this one, and it's written by this person who's great. I just had lunch with them. They were great. Come back for that. I just think let's get TV writers introducing things on screen more.
I do like it. I like the breaking of the fourth wall. I like that a lot. I think we should be doing more of that. I think it's great. I think we should be doing more of that.
Yeah, I think I'm only half joking. I think it's fun. I think TV writers should get to introduce things more.
I agree. I think we should be doing more of that without doing exactly that. That is the thing of all of these reboots, which we can talk about in the middle list. But they're rebooting something that has already been done, whereas just take the stuff from it that you are learning from and then build upon that and make something new.
As you pointed out, what you're describing is Black Mirror.
It's Black Mirror, yes.
Black Mirror is just the Twilight Zone because it's the only one that's actually having a new point of view and trying to do something new while following that same basic format of like, here's our big idea for the episode.
the anthology production. I mean, there was Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, but I think, so it's not just that Twilight Zone is an anthology. It's an anthology about ideas. Each episode has a big idea. And I think that's where Black Mirror comes in, because Black Mirror is not just an anthology. It's an anthology where every episode has a big idea. And I think that's what makes it the true, like, successor to the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
This was written by our man, Rod Serling. He's back to back. Yeah, we talked about him in The Worst. I don't know what else to say. He died pretty young from cancer because he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Doctor recommended
cigarettes. And he got to introduce his own episodes, which I think is great. He had that, so before television, he both wrote and broadcasted for radio, which is where he got that incredible, that is the thing about him introducing stuff, is he has that really rich, like, silky radio announcer voice that makes everything he says just feels very important and nice because he had developed that broadcaster voice. It was directed by Douglas Hayes. So in contrast to David Butler, who was like an old movie guy who had moved to TV, Douglas Hayes was only 6 or 7 years into his directing career at this point. He was a TV director from the start. And he went on to direct TV all the way into the late 80s. He did Magnum P.I. and then many, many other shows I had never heard of. So we kind of have we have a movie director at the end of his career moving to TV. And then here we have a TV director who is kind of native to TV and just starting out.
Well, everyone's just starting out. It's the 60s.
That's true. But I don't think had like movie credits before this. He was starting out as a TV director, which is, that was a brand new idea. Nowadays, it is very possible to start and end your career as purely a TV director. But as you said, TV was so new that the idea that you'd like start your career as a TV director was a very new one. And that is the Twilight Zone. Now that we've seen these 2 episodes, how have your feelings about the Twilight Zone changed?
I'd watch more of it. Yeah. I think I never really thought to watch it again, but I would watch more of it now. How I thought about it changed. It's just, there's a ton of craft there. I think it's a really good nuts and bolts show for looking at with crafting morality play, parable, twinged with, psychological thriller, black comedy, horror, sci-fi, dystopia. I think that it's a really good building block show to look at for constructing stories. So, yeah. That's how I'm looking at it now. I'm not looking at it as like the 8-year-old being like, why? It's New Year's Day. It's so scary. Why do we have to watch this?
I'd say I kind of slid the other direction in that as a child, I was like, this is the pinnacle of TV writing. How clever this is. Like, these are so cleverly written. And they are cleverly written. I wasn't wrong about that. But it is just that I do think these episodes tend to be a 5 to 10 minute idea that struggles to fill 25 minutes. And I think maybe he would have thrived in like the YouTube era where you could just be like, here's a 9-minute video with a really clever idea and not have to fill in the rest of that time. But yeah, I struggled with this one because I could just feel a little bit of the panic of trying to fill the rest of the time to fit in your big idea.
I think you're projecting.
Am I?
I think you are.
Okay. I don't know. I keep watching it. I will say that like for a 70-year-old show or almost 70-year-old show, it still very visually interesting. Like, unlike I Love Lucy, which looked very dated, a lot of the visuals of this still looked very interesting. And I don't think we're, like, significantly less visually interesting than TV happening now.
Yeah. And, I mean, the moral still holds true today, right? People are still really mean to hot people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what Rod Serling wanted to say.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't talk about this, that, like, his experience in the war specifically made him very left-wing. And so... which is not that unusual for sci-fi of the time. There were a few right-wing sci-fiers, but on the whole, I think science fiction was kind of a space for liberal ideas, and Rod Serling was definitely, especially for like a big network show in 1960 to like 1965, having this guy, just having a Jewish writer be like, conformity is bad. We should think about who's ruling us. Like, these are ideas that I think, if not cloaked in the veneer of science fiction and horror, would never have been allowed on CBS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, Rod Serling. Let's talk about what our next show is. What is our next show?
Our next show we're doing, because we love a challenge, is we're doing...
You're expecting a challenge here, huh?
I'm expecting a challenge. I'm expecting the worst episode to be pretty bad. We're doing Happy Days.
We're doing Happy Days. Kind of one of the... I was looking at like eras of TV we've been covering, and 70s and 80s were kind of our least covered. We've only done MASH for the 70s and Cheers for the 80s. So those are the ones we needed to catch up a little bit on. And Happy Days is such a foundational one. It had so many spin-offs, 2 of which were successful. And it launched the career of Ron Howard. It created the entire idea of Jumping the Shark. Although, weirdly enough, the Jumping the Shark episode is actually firmly in the middle in IMDb ratings. It is nowhere near the bottom. The worst one is, this is going to be our first backdoor pilot, which is a thing that Happy Days did occasionally, where they would like introduce a character for one episode, have the episode be about that character, and then be like, good news, guys, this character now has their own TV show. And so the Happy Days worst episode is our first backdoor pilot.
So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And and then if there's a show that you really want us to cover, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Oh, also, if you like this show, if you could just go ahead and tell some people, that'd be cool. Or write a review on whatever app you're using to listen to this. Either of those things help us out because they just make us more visible to people.
And it's Podcast Visibility Month.
It is podcast. Don't perpetuate podcast erasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Check out our Patreon-only show, The Middleist, where we will be discussing the exact Middleist rated episode to see what the show looks like when everything is exactly average. That episode is Season 3, Episode 4, The Passers-By. Spoiler, Abraham Lincoln also in this one. And we'll also get into why we thought the Twilight Zone reboots didn't work.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the possibly upcoming Twilight Zone film that's coming.
One of what is this, like the 4th or 5th Twilight Zone attempt
this
at the Twilight Zone movie?
This might have the juice. It's like has all of the makings of having the juice, but you never know.
But is it going to kill 2 children the way that the 80s Twilight Zone one did?
Well, I hope not.
I certainly hope not.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Like,
you are entering a world of podcast and podcast.